Hey, welcome back to episode 4 of the Mr. Money Mustache Show. I'm your host, Mr. Money Mustache. So as the show has progressed, we have decided to do things in like a themed format. So we're going to base each show around a theme of a few questions where everything is related. I thought that would make it a bit less scattery and maybe a bit more fun to watch. This is all based on viewer feedback and also a little bit more fun to make and easier to search if you're just searching for certain answers on YouTube. So today we have gathered a few questions around the general theme of staying the course, or maybe you could consider it not wasting your life in the theme of early retirement. So the basic idea here is you've somehow come across the idea of financial independence, maybe even through my blog or through this YouTube channel, and early retirement, and you've realized that, holy shit, the consumer life is not for me. I don't really want to work 40 years and then retire to old age and not do anything. And instead you want to cut your working career down a bit shorter, like maybe to 15 years or even 10 years if you're a relative badass at the sport of efficient living. So then you figure this out, you make the small tweaks that are surprisingly easy, and then you're on the good path. You suddenly see money is building up rapidly in your accounts instead of shrinking or just bumping along at zero like most people do. But that still leaves you with 10 or 15 years to go, and that's a long time. You don't really want to waste that much of your life regardless of if you're getting ahead during that time. So the questions today are based around that basic idea. And we can bring up the first one. It's called Sticking With It by Jesper Moore. He says, "Dear Mr. MM, I'm just getting into this FI journey and I find it a bit overwhelming to believe I could stick with it to the end. What mindset is the most important throughout the journey to keep pushing even when the goal is still far away?" Now, the cool thing about this question is that a bunch of readers in the comments popped in with their own answers, and those were pretty good. We can look through those right now. So some of the answers we got in the comments for this question are pretty much capturing the whole thing. For example, Joe Jacob writes, "In order to see your way forward, look back and see your fast progress so far." So that's a good idea. Once you get saving, you'll notice that everything's changing very quickly in your bank accounts and your stress level's dropping, and you might find that after a year, you've already paid off like $50,000 in debt, or your net worth is increasing. We're going to cover on another episode of the show how to track your net worth and your spending. John F. Says you should try automating your accounts, meaning 30 to 60% of each paycheck is going into the investments and you're not even thinking about it. That's a really good idea because it's stressful if you're always fighting to get every last penny and how can I save each month. Instead, it's better to just have things go in the background while you go on with living your life. Finally, We Need a Saga writes, "I would add, enjoy the journey. A super empowering feeling once you're committed to and on the path." And that's the real thing is, and if I'm going to put my own answer in there, the dirty little secret is after your life after retirement doesn't change all that much from before retirement. It's just the work part goes away, but you're still the same person and you still need to fill up your days. So the question is, how are you filling your days now and what works for you outside of work? So in other words, like what are you doing on the weekends right now? If you could get yourself a good weekend package that's making you live a happy life right now on the weekends, that's just going to expand to be your full life during retirement. Now, if you're already, if you're currently wasting your weekends, like watching TV and stuff like that, that's not going to be a very good test because one of my rules is you're basically not allowed to watch TV ever. It's just a waste. You only got so many hours alive on this earth, so why would you waste it just like sitting there watching this passive entertainment? And of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but that's the general rule. Don't plan TV into your life and then see what opens up on the weekends with the time you spend. So for example, I haven't had TV since 1999, and instead that sucked me outdoors into doing these other things. And I would argue that if you plan your post-retirement life in a way that includes these 5 factors of outdoors, highly physical activities, whatever you can handle, things that are challenging to both your mind and your body, and then things that are social up to the level of whatever you need to be happy, introverts versus extroverts have a different amount of socializing needed, but almost everybody needs something. So you need to make sure that's part of your retirement life plan. And finally, stuff that is helpful and generous with other people. So in other words, just playing golf by yourself, or like sitting with just you and your family in the Hilton Beach Resort in Hawaii is unlikely to be a satisfying long-term plan, because you're not really helping anybody with that. And I find that your soul, especially the longer you go in retirement, it gets nourished by actually making a difference and helping people that aren't just you and your immediate family. It's a bit counterintuitive, but the more you give, the more you get in your life. So retirements that are really long, you have to plant that seed early to avoid going stale as the years go on. So that's going to be your life in retirement. Now, of course, if you have kids during retirement that aren't raised yet, that sucks up a lot of your time. And a lot of people who quit their regular day job find that the child raising job just grows to fill that space in a very joyful way, because really kids take about 6 to 12 hours a day each to raise. And if you don't have that much time, it kind of just flows, it just overflows, and you're never catching up with what their needs are. But eventually kids grow up. I haven't got to that stage yet, but at that point I'm just planning to expand the rest of it. So this brings us back to the original question, which is, what do we do during the long journey of 10 plus years to get to retirement? So the answer is, you just keep working on your free time and start to design more and more of your dream retirement lifetime in the time outside of work, and make sure you have interests that are productive, and potentially even side businesses that make money, because that's really satisfying to a lot of us. And then by the time you get that fixed up, you're going to be almost done saving for retirement anyway, because the years go by in a very, very positive way. And then at some point you're just unplugging this job that's now pretty boring, but you've enjoyed the 10 years that got there, and then it's just going to keep getting better from that point onwards. So in other words, don't look to retirement to make your life better. You have to start making your life better right now if you want to have any joy after you get to the retirement. Question number 2 from a Dan Gorman brings us right along the same path. It says, he asks, how much would you value escaping the office or cubicle if you were to exchange a well-paying indoor career for a not as well-paying outdoor career prior to reaching your financial independence? Can you quantify that benefit? Okay, so it's a little bit of one of those questions where you could say, like, but what about this? What about that? Because just being inside and outside of a door isn't exactly the defining point for what makes for a healthy and sustainable job. But a well-rounded job that includes like moving your body and getting outside is much better than a job where you're firmly locked in one place. Like my job as a software engineer was sort of in between the two, because there was some travel, there's some laboratory work, and then there was some sitting down and typing work. So basically, the worse your entire inside job is, the more important it is to consider making a change to a job that like feeds the whole mind and the whole body at once. So how can we answer this man? I think I would say, number 1, if you've got a good paying indoor job, just see if you can tweak it to become an indoor-outdoor job. Like, for example, use active transportation to get to work. Like if you're biking to work or walking or running, that effectively changes the nature of the job right there. And if you can get your breaks outdoors, and instead of sitting in a restaurant for lunch, like go eat or do an active thing with your coworkers outside, that's already changing that job. But if you have a choice like of switching careers entirely to something that's really, really physical and active and still something you enjoy and get paid for, I would say that's a pretty worthwhile challenge for yourself. Like, for example, if I could have cut my salary by 20%, which for me was maybe $20,000, and gone straight to like freelance carpentry, which to me is the most fun job in the world, I think I would have done that right away. But I would not have done it for like a full 50% pay cut, at least not in the early years, because I was getting so much freedom from that higher salary, and my job wasn't all that bad. So I'd say take it as a case-by-case basis, but do put some value on the health factor of your job, which most people don't. They just think like, what's my paycheck? And they don't even think if it's far from their home or not. They just think, what's my paycheck, and will you give me this job? And if you will, I'll take it. And if you expand the list of criteria to what makes for a good job outside of just the paycheck, then I think you'll end up with a better work situation, which paradoxically makes it easier to get to early retirement, even if you are making a bit less per month with the plain old salary. All right, so these first two questions have been a little soft pitch that set up the concepts for the big one, which is a little bit of a case study applying these ideas to a guy who really is set for retirement in terms of money and his plan for what he would do after retirement, but he's still a little bit unsure of whether or not he should do it, basically because his situation is just a little bit confused right now and he needs to find some answers. So let's start by reading his email, which is like a few paragraphs long, but it's worth following through, and we're going to put up a point summary on the screen at the same time. So, Triple M, I was raised lower middle class, very aware of my parents' money problems at a young age. I didn't like the way that made me feel and vowed to work hard so that I would always have options. This is a similar story to me. Well, at least in the somewhat lower middle class, I really vowed to be a little bit fancy myself because I didn't want to have to wait to get the nice lifestyle that I felt I was missing as a kid. But I still gained some frugality advantages from that. All right, so back to Matt's story. I started out with negative $80,000 net worth at age 31. Now at age 39, I've got a net worth of $2.6 million with $1.6 million of that in my primary residence. Fail, he says, after doing 2 live-in flips and another $1 million spread out over 1 Airbnb, 2 first trust deeds, this is just some real estate investments, private equity, and the stock market, all yielding different returns. Okay? I make a good wage, but the wife and I spend more than we should. I live in an expensive area, if you couldn't tell by the home prices. Yes, I could tell. I crave simplicity and just want to sell everything off and move and put it in some, stock investments and call it quit. I don't hate my job, but I would not choose to do it if I didn't have to do it. I have many hobbies, including building furniture, designing and installing car stereos, wood fabrication, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the same stuff I like to do. Very interesting case study. I swear I didn't make this up. So I now have a 5.5-year-old in kindergarten, which makes my pipe dream of getting out even more difficult. Actually, I would argue even more urgent. We save 50 to 60% of our income per year, and I calculate retirement by age 48 if we don't move, but it could be now if we did move. And also, by the way, I've been reading your blog since the year 2013. Wow. Okay. So my quick answer is do it, dude. This family has more than enough net worth to retire in any situation, except they just have to make some changes to let this wealth they've accumulated work for them instead of just sitting there like a boat anchor. So money that you own is only worthwhile if it's working for you. And when it's in your primary house, it's not. It's more like just a vacuum cleaner that's sucking up your daily income to maintain that thing and pay the property taxes on it. And then that money is tied up that could be invested and putting out dividends if you lived in a less expensive place. So an interesting rule of thumb that a lot of people don't realize who have expensive houses is it could be costing you up to 1% of the house value of that house to live in it. So $1 million house is like $10,000 a month to live in, even if you have no mortgage and the cost is hidden from you. If you sold the house and invested it, you could have, and then went on to rental instead, renting a place that could save you, if the rent is less than $10,000 a month, you could be coming out ahead by switching. So this person has a $1.6 million house. If you can find rent in that area for less than $16,000 a month, and which is almost the case in anywhere in the United States anyway, then you could be coming out ahead by renting. So to be really conservative, why not just sell the house, look for a $5,000 rental, which is still probably extremely nice. Then you're really saving a lot by leaving the rest of the money invested. Okay, so that's the rent versus buy equation in a nutshell. Then you've got these great hobbies. You've got the stuff that's constructive and challenging and physical and could be outdoors. So you already know what you're going to do if you quit your job. And then finally, you've got the ultimate hobby, which is a kid in kindergarten, which is the ultimate age. This is right when the children are forming the strongest bonds with their parents. So it's going to go right through to adulthood. It's like the years that they don't forget, whereas, toddler years, they tend to forget. So it's the golden opportunity. Your time is not going to be wasted if you quit the job and then start spending time with your child. The only thing you have to do is figure out the money part, which is pretty easy. And even if you have a lot of times in this situation, you're in an expensive neighborhood, your spouse is probably like has tentacles into the expensive hobbies and habits of your neighbors, so they don't realize that life could be a lot less expensive than it is currently. But there's a book that I would recommend in this situation from some friends of mine that were in the same situation in San Diego. It's called Playing with Fire, and it is sort of like a partner book to go with the new Playing with Fire documentary that's just about to come out right now. And it explains how they got on board with each other from going from a very spendy, super successful lifestyle to just a medium spendy lifestyle with a lot more freedom in it. And there's like a bit of a mental transition to make this leap. And the spouse, the stereotypical like spouse that was happy with one lifestyle, became even more happy with the next lifestyle because they were coming together around the needs of the child. So if you have a kid and you have a choice of like 9 more years of working just to support your current lifestyle, or making a few changes right now, and then suddenly you're both totally free to share the work of raising this child and give them a much more magical lifestyle, almost any spouse can get behind that if it just means giving up your Mercedes convertible or whatever. It's a really, really great trade. So anyway, I would encourage this person to just start looking at the expenses and look around at rentals in your neighborhood. You don't even have to make the giant leap to moving out to like Omaha, where you can buy a house for $100,000. You can stay in your expensive city and right in that same region just by switching to a different living arrangement, or even like Airbnb out part of your existing house to like cover the bills would be another way to meet your monthly needs. So I'm rooting for this person. I hope he writes back later and tells us that they've made these changes and are now free. And like heck, even just go down to like 1 or 2 days per week in your current job and take the other 80% of the time off. There's no need to keep working when you're super wealthy like that. Just like, cut and run because you've already made it. Congratulations. So I'd say that's probably a wrap on this show. Hopefully I haven't yammered on for too long for reasonable YouTube watching. So if you want to suggest ideas for themes of future shows, let me know. I already know that I'm going to do one on international living, including people who live their whole lives in other countries and are wondering how to get financial independence with a different financial system, like how to get stock index funds when you live in the Middle East, for example. And then another theme I think that would be great is covering commuting, because almost everybody watching this still has a ridiculous car commute that's burning up most of their time and energy and health. And we could share some of the ideas that I've blogged about for the last 7 years here on YouTube with like really simple summary, and show everybody how to save about $10,000 to $20,000 a year just by making some small changes to their work and living and transportation arrangements. So that's going to be a fun one. See you next time.